What is
Eric.
up, shitbags? Back. We got first episode of 2024. Again, it's every time it's awesome. We're keep trucking away. This is so exciting. We got our first one of 24, and the first one's gonna kick off 2 episodes a month. So just twice as much fun, twice as much people we get to hear
Thanks
coming
as
on.
much fun. Hopefully, my mic here is a little better than last year. We're getting there. It's great value. So,
Yeah, we'll fix it. We're ironing out the kinks. We're good. He comes in and out. We're all good. We're great. Everything sounds great. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching. It's been an amazing year. We're really excited for year 2. For the first full year that we'll be doing this, we started kind of a halfway point last year, but now we're going full swing, a whole year, 2 guests a month. It's going to be awesome. We got a great guest to start it off. We talked about it. We got a lot to owe this guy. We're going to have a really good time talking in, but we're going to hit some housekeeping stuff first. So I know everybody listened to the hour-and-a-half pat down that we did, or shakedown that we did last episode, talking about the t-shirts and everything, but make sure you check out the website. It actually turned out really great. Really excited with how that looked. Again, just thank you to Jeremy Sanders. He's the one that got us kind of aimed that way and to go get to work on the website from there. It was really easy and really awesome to do. So check out the website, get yourself a t-shirt. At this point, I think we're at 13 shirts,
13,
which is awesome. So we got 13. Again, first, as soon as we get 100 shirts in the pre-order, everything will start being made and shipped out. Jobtown said it's going to be about a month from the point that we finalize the order. So 100 shirts, that's going to end, and you'll get your t-shirts faster, or February 1st, whichever one comes first. So if you already bought a t-shirt and you want your t-shirt, get other people to buy t-shirts, and then you can get it faster.
That's true.
There we go. All right. That is the end of our shakedown. It's the end of our pat. Check it out. Thank you guys so much for the support. Those of you that have gotten t-shirts, it's been awesome. We're really excited to see it. Really excited to see everything come in. We got Jeremy. We got everybody from in Wisconsin. We got people from New York that order shirts. It's been so cool. So thank you, everybody, for your support. Look forward to that. I know Corley said he's going to be sending out in the blast there. Sean Duffy says he's going to be sending out. So a lot of people, Taylor Stins, a lot of people are going to be sharing it to try and spread some more word, bring it in. Again, half that's going to our cadets, so to take them to New York. So thank you guys so much. It's been awesome. Can't thank you guys enough for all your help and everything. So without further ado, let's get 2024 started. So we've got our good friend and mentor, JD DuCharme. We'll let him go all about his introduction, bring him in, but it's going to be a blast. So let's bring him in here. JD.
Brother.
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
What's up? How's it going?
Oh, it's good. Just chilling here in the basement where we should be, right? So
absolutely. Well, why don't you go ahead and give a little introduction about yourself, where you're from, what you want to share, and then we'll hop into these questions and just get some good advice from you.
Oh, yeah. Just another Wisconsinite here. Spent a lot of my career here in Oconomowoc, where I'm currently back at, but was at Beaver Dam full-time for 5 years-ish, and had both as cadets and then as probationary firefighters, and had a lot of fun together up there. And then came back to now Western Lakes here, but by way of Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and currently a lieutenant at Western Lakes Fire District here in Oconomowoc. So having a good time, always learning something new, traveling around and trying to meet good people from around the country, and you guys are included in there. Luckily, you're still in the backyard yet, so.
Yeah, we'll talk about it and we'll go into a lot. We're not even blowing smoke. We're all absolutely true when we say this, that we owe a lot of where we are today to you. I mean, you're a big reason that I came to Beaver Dam. You brought Brennan up as a cadet, and just I think the passion sparked in both of us, because I see that a lot. I mean, you took me to Minnesota. It was one of the first outside trainings that I've ever been to, and I didn't realize that was a thing. And
those Euro helmets were awesome, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, and I think from that point, and just from learning from you being on your shift the little bit of time that I was able to, and Brennan for most of his full time, it definitely sparked that passion. So down to earth, great guy right here, and we're really excited to get to hear a lot about
great mentor.
With that though, passion's one thing, but hard work's the other. You guys have put yourself where you are, so give yourselves the credit there.
Yeah, we try. We appreciate it. Well, with that being said, I mean, we love having you on. You can't wait to get into these questions. So we got some deep ones that we know you're going to be able to dig deep in. So we got just our normal base set that we can dig into and go as far in as we want. But how did you end up in the fire service? You gave a little spiel as to kind of your route, but how did you in the end do it?
Yeah. Well, I was with the feds for 6 years right out of college. I went and got a bachelor's degree like a lot of people did way back when in the, right around 2000. And everybody said you had to have a four-year degree to get anywhere in life. And I did the same thing. I was a senior on 9/11 in high school and kind of wanted to go the military route, but my parents really weren't having that at the time. Wanted me to go to school and get a bachelor's. So that's what I did at Whitewater. At Whitewater did pretty well. So the federal government decided I was good enough to work for them apparently, and went and was a special agent for them for 6 years. Was able to travel quite a bit with that and worked during some very busy years in global conflict. And then just wasn't a very good lifestyle for having a family. So I had a son and I was working on a family and wanted to have a job closer to home. And I had a brother-in-law in Janesville Fire Department in Wisconsin that said firefighting was the place to be, and gave myself pretty much 2 years to go through the training and then get a full-time job, and was just blessed enough to get that. So kind of lucked out there. I had been doing part-time firefighting, the paid on call volunteer route for a while. And paramedic class was obviously the golden ticket here in Wisconsin. So I had to get that out of the way. But I got into it and then never looked back. Thought I had a great job and then realized that this is the best job I ever had, as we like to say. And I continue to believe that this is truly the best job anyone could ever have. So
absolutely. Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy to hear and listen to everybody's stories, where everybody comes from, because seeing you when I started, you were only 5 years at well, at that point 3, but talking to you is like you've been there for 30 years, and it's kind of cool to see that passion level of like, for me, that was how I when I started, how I kind of correlated everything was coming from my dad, from Fond du Lac. Seemed like people have been here for a while, they really had a good passion, and coming in, it seemed like you picked up a lot in that, the short time that you were there. But yeah, just into the job. That's exactly how it gets you there.
Absolutely.
Well, with how we ended the fire service, we got our next one. What did you do as a new firefighter to earn the respect of your crew?
Well, at first I didn't. So that's a good part of my story though. Like when I was volunteer and paid on call, I did not do a very good job of representing who I was very well, or what my intentions were. And I think that's a problem a lot of us have. I was very, very passionate. There was no doubt about that, but I channeled it the wrong ways. So part of that coming from kind of a high stress, high performance job, and coming into the fire service in Wisconsin, which I found great guys in, but also a lot of people that just really didn't care too much. They were there, but they didn't really care about firefighting. They didn't seem to take it seriously. And they didn't seem to want to train all that much. And for me, it was like, you guys got a job that people can live and die by. Why don't you care more? So it irritated me more than anything else. And then just being new into the fire service, I didn't know how to channel that passion and that energy. So I became kind of the thorn in people's sides, where I didn't understand why we couldn't change things. I couldn't understand why we couldn't just try to better a process, and it would anger me. And I would say that was the first 2 or 3 years in the fire service out of my 11, So eventually I had to find a mentor that kind of tapped that down a little bit and just was like, you're a smart person. Why can't you figure this out on how to navigate these waters? And he was just a great person to kind of follow in his footsteps and just realize that nothing's going to be done necessarily at your speed. Sometimes you have to go with the way, the speed the boat's going. You're on it, but you gotta slow down a little bit. So between that and then Rob Fisher and other people, the 10% pressure 100% of the time, learned a different way to go about making changes. And Beaver Dam ended up being a prime example of it, where initially when we got there really wasn't much training being done. The engines were moving to go out and pump because that was about what we trained on. But then met a lot of like-minded people that were there already, and started making that change, but in a better way. So that was a big part. I didn't have it to start, and then I think making that change in myself, focusing more on the action than the talk, and then just going out there and being vulnerable and putting yourself out there. That's eventually, if people see you're constantly willing to learn and constantly willing to adapt to different things that are going to come up, they start to respect you a little bit more, but also going and doing things with people. I mean, obviously you guys were both with me, so you can call me out. But I wanted to be out in the bay training just as much as anybody else. And I like doing that stuff. And especially for the younger people, if you're going to tell them to do something, you have to be able to do it yourself, and showing them the way, not expecting them to know it all the time. And then also knowing the why behind it. One of the worst phrases in the fire service that's all over is right now is, these effing millennials, and you hear that all the time, and these Gen Zs or whatever generation we're on now. And I staunchly disagree with that assessment. I think these kids are smarter than we were, because they don't waste as much time finding information, but they have it at their fingertips. But if we're teaching them something that's practical and we don't have the why behind the practical action, then they ask questions. And if you don't have the answers for them, well, that's probably because your depth of knowledge isn't quite up to their level of what they can attain on Google. So we have to be better as instructors and as mentors and as people that have been in the fire service a little longer, and then understand that they want a little bit more depth than we did. You can't get away with just fucking do it because I told you to. We got to be able to explain to them why, and also give them options. So I think it just makes us better as a fire service in the end if we grasp that the correct way.
Yeah, that's a conversation we've had on here, is just that switch of, it used to be, you're listen, not heard. You're 2 ears in one mouth. Like you shut up and you did what you were told until you got your time on. Then you basically did that exactly to the next person. And now the millennials, Gen Z, it's not necessarily, and people that are very stuck in old ways do take it as offense when you do, but sure. I don't think many people mean it as offense. It's just, we want to know why. I mean, that's myself, that's Brennan. We're in that Gen Z category. Like, and we, probably didn't do it as often as some people do, because there's a fine line. You'll see when some people are just nothing but whys. It's all just, okay, well, why? Okay, why? Okay, why? But then it's some that are like, okay, this makes sense, but this doesn't. Can you explain why? Yeah. And it's going to be a balance.
There's all that little bit of initiative. You can't just go challenge everything. There's also a rite of passage. There's no doubt about that. And that tradition needs to be maintained, because that is part of the fire service and that is part of the growth. But at the same token, you can meet some kids that are brand new that can teach you something. There's no doubt about that. And both sides need to be open to learning. So
I think dropping that ego and just being humble and getting to work. So.
Absolutely.
Did you just stay humble and do work, basically? You could have just moved your chair.
Look at the flag. Look at the flag.
Right,
yep, there it is. There it is.
Stay humble and do work. There you go. Shout out to Jeremy. Shout out to Jeremy Sanders.
Yeah.
But no, that's exactly what we've talked about. I think that was one of the times where it came up, was to just the humility and just ability to do the work. Like, you're gonna have times that have why. There's gonna be times that have the question. I mean, if it's on the fire ground, or if it's something way above your head, like an order that comes down from chief or something, and you're that young guy, that's probably not the time to ask why. But if you're out drilling and doing trainings and you're going over a skill, like, then that's your time. That's like, okay, why do we do it this way? Or maybe this is how I saw it done somewhere else. Like, why don't we do this way? Like, there is always that give and take, but
we got a lot of experience, and that's where traditionally it was taught, was the experience, right? But now, modern days, we also have a lot of statistics, right? So now like Firefighter Rescue Survey and other places like that, they can put stats to some of the reasons why we're doing things. And when you have the combination of that experience and then stats to back it up, I mean, can't really argue too much with that stuff. So it's very beneficial to the like I said, Firefighter Rescue Survey themselves is very beneficial to the fire service and what our purpose is, and being able to explain the why. So
So we're gonna go in on that on the last question. I have experience that I was laying Brennan in with and was like, this would be perfect to ask you. So we're gonna I planned on bringing them up in that form of the question. So
for sure.
that's coming up. I'm excited for that one. It's gonna get a lot of a lot of conversations. But yeah, I mean, you like you said, just learning that give and take and kind of not always pushing that you probably have said it before or I have heard of it, but that 10%, 100% of the time is something that I just clicked as soon as you said, like, that is because thinking about with Corey, with our captain, with just ideas that we have that we pitch that we know they're not going to get taken right away.
Yeah.
Like there's some things that are going to need some pressure, but that was exactly kind of what Corey said was the last time he brought up something that we wanted for change was, I'm going to bring it up because then they're going to say no, but then it's in the back of their mind. And then I'll bring it up again and I'll bring it up again. Like, and that, I think that just absolutely clicked. That's such a good way to think about and go about it. Obviously, it's just that 10%, 100%, always nagging there, but not in your face. Like, why are we doing it this way?
Yep. Because like I said, I was that guy and it just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
You got to harness that passion a little bit. You got to learn. And hopefully, like I said, you find those mentors that can teach you that. That's the key, and follow their footsteps a little bit. So harness the passion, right?
Perfect. Absolutely. So with that, kind of flipping the coin here. So for now, especially now that you're in the officer position, how do you motivate young firefighters? Obviously, you had a lot of ways that you did it for me and Brendan not being an officer, but now that you're kind of in that spotlight, I'm curious to see what your go-to is. Probably hasn't changed much, but
yeah, I mean, frankly, I think it's the same thing I did before. The nice part is, as you guys know too, is the officer position never really mattered too much to me. I like breaking things and kind of be able to run wild a little bit, and so it was never a huge thing to me to become an officer. And then this opportunity came up, and having conversation with Jack, who's one of my mentors, that kind of guided me to try and take the chance on it. I found I really enjoy it because I'm really not doing anything different. I like to be out on the training ground and drilling with people. I like being able to pass along knowledge, but I also like to be an advocate for people. And that, like with you guys and Brennan, it would have been through cadets and trying to give them experiences that they can value for the future. You guys are carrying that on, going to go to New York here pretty soon, but trying to give them things that they're going to be able to value later on in life that can build a foundation for them. Now it's just in a formal role instead of that informal role that I was in previously. But at the same token, it's calmed me down a little bit is a big part. I tend to be a little bit brash sometimes. I know you guys will laugh at that, but I had a lot of up and down days, and that's just not something you can have. You got to be pretty level. I think a lot of that came from other stresses that I just brought to work. I was never very good at leaving that at home. But now that that's kind of cleared out, being able to be level is a huge thing. And that's been able to allow me to focus more on my day-to-day at the job. But overall, I think it's just showing people you care about them. My guys now that I have would tell you, I tell them I love them all the time because I truly do. I loved you guys. I still do. And I've always maintained that. The people I work with, I truly have a love for. I care about them deeply. I want them to be successful. And I also want them to be able to enjoy their life to the fullest, both at home and at work. So I think just being there for them, both at work and making them feel their value and know what they're worth and showing them their potential. And then just showing them that I truly love them. I do. That has been the two biggest keys, just being out on the training ground and being there for them as an ear when they need one. But showing them you love them in two different ways, through their job and through their lives. And then just being there for them when you need them, when they need you. So.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a family we talk about all the time. It's probably gotten said every single episode that we've done, or every single conversation that gets brought up about firefighting. It's a family. You're there a third of your life with them, and you think is times where when you're at home, you're sleeping for 8, maybe 5 probably hours. Like you do spend more time with these people than your family at the end of the day. Like. And these 25 to 30 years that you spend in it, I'm convinced that the actual time that you spend with them is probably more than your family.
and I don't have near as much room for activities here at home than our bunk room
Yeah.
out at Beaver Dam. We had a lot of room, so
Yeah. Build bunk beds and stuff.
that's
Oh,
right.
it's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, it's just I don't think people in the job understand, but I don't think, I mean, you guys see it all the time. I know whenever we're out there, we do PR or something, and somebody always asks the question, how long do you guys work? And you say 24 hours at a time or 48 hours at a time. And everybody's like, what?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
Do you sleep? You're like,
I'm with my
well,
best friends. I'm with my best friends, man.
Sometimes. Other times I'm picking your grandma off the floor.
That's right. Yeah.
But people just don't understand that, and when
No.
you think about how much time you actually do spend at home, like with your family, not just at home. I mean, because significant others, family, everybody, they have work. So you come home on a Monday, Tuesday, you have off a Monday, Tuesday, you're still not seeing them. They're at work, they're doing their 9 to 5 or whatever their job may be, and it's just, it is really a family that you develop. And there's like, if you don't think that it's a family, then you're probably not the one that's a part of it. Like I mean, you have to accept that and be that. There's going to be people you don't like. There's going to be people you don't get along with. It's literally just like a family reunion. There is going to be people like that. But at the end of the day, you love them all and you don't want anything to happen to them. And you hopefully work great with them.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point. I mean, the sooner you can figure out how to work with those people that maybe you don't like as much, the better off you're going to be. We've all experienced that. We've all worked with people that have very different mindsets or very different capabilities than us. And if you fight against that, you don't get anywhere. But if you talk and you truly see each other as brothers and figure out, sometimes somebody just doesn't want to do something, but they're going to let you do it.
Yeah.
And it's going to put you both in the spot you need to be when it needs to be there. I mean, that's all you can really ask for. And I think we've all experienced that. And that's a really special thing. And you start realizing that not everybody has to be you. That's a huge thing that it sounds very simple, but it was a big growth thing for me that I had to look at myself a little bit and just realize not everybody has to be you. Not everybody has to care as much as you do. Not everybody has to do the same things you do. You just have to be able to place them in the right positions to succeed in the end. And that's that's a big part of this new role too.
Yeah. Everybody's got a cousin Eddie. Everybody, real life, on the job, there's always one.
That's right.
It's a great time though. Yeah, the bunk rooms and everything. There's not much. Do you guys at the lakes have the like isolated or like
separate rooms, man?
Separate rooms.
It's so weird because
that takes the fun out of the firehouse right there.
Oshkosh, we had bunk rooms too, so I was still used to it, but I tell you what, I like the old school like bunk rooms, man. And I just feel like you're that much more connected, and maybe it's through smelling each other and different weird noises. It does something
the
for
snoring.
you.
Or the
totally
snoring.
Does,
There's so many good snoring. There was one recently, one of the guys on a ones. Apparently, they all woke up to the senior guy on ones just standing over the guy that was snoring, contemplating for like 30 seconds what he was gonna do, and then just lifting his bed.
I was gonna say murder takes a long time to get over, but flipping them, that's a little better option. So nobody needs 20 to life for some snores, but
murder, flipping the bed. It was probably up there. That was probably what those 30 seconds were. It was if I take the pillow, that'd be
true.
No, that's the bunk room. The bunk room is just so much fun. I mean, the Nerf war is the just chucking stuff over, turning off the lights, and all of a sudden hearing someone breathing next to your ear. You're like, what the?
That wasn't uncommon anyway. Let's be honest.
No, it's a family. It's a great atmosphere there. But no, that's awesome. I think you hit it on the head with building that trust and how to motivate someone. If you come to work and you know that people want you to be here, like that's just that goes so far. I mean, everybody wants to be there when you're in this job if you're really into it. Like you said, it's the best job you ever had. But wanting to be there and making it feel like you're wanted to be there, that just breeds greatness, I guess.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, next one that we got here that will conclude our generic ones is the what do you think brings a crew together the best?
Oh man, the dinner table. And everybody's going to say that, I guess, but I think it's the dinner table and training, those two things together. and both in separate ways. I think the dinner table does because it's open season for everybody. It doesn't really matter what your position is, and you can kind of break each other's balls and have a good time and talk about the day or eating challenges or drinking a half gallon of milk or whatever it's going to be.
Gallon,
whatever the challenge of the day is, but it really opens you up. You get to hear about what everybody's doing at home at the dinner table. You get to hear about what they're going through. But you also get to talk about the day at the firehouse. So that's number one, but the number two is the training ground. I think the biggest obstacle for most people when they come to the fire service is being afraid of looking bad or failing. And I know you guys were a part of this. I think that was where maybe our old department was for a long time. And I see it all the time at my new department. Just younger people don't want to fail. Nobody does, because you want to go and show that you know your stuff, and nobody wants to look like an idiot in front of everybody else. But frankly, that one idiot is going to take that department a lot further than any of the guys that can do it, 100% of the time, because they're going to help us learn something. So when you're out of the training ground and you get over the fact that you're going to screw up and you're going to fail sometimes, and you use all of those as lessons that you can laugh about and then learn from, you're going to just exponentially increase your knowledge and increase your capabilities. And we were just really lucky. I mean, our department exemplified that motto of just, pushing yourself to failure. And we constantly found ways to screw ourselves up. I mean, I remember going to Menards trying to find the craziest stuff we could get tangled up on in the entanglement drill, like dryer vent pipes, all sorts of stuff, because it was getting too easy for us to cut through the normal entanglement prop, that's what you really want. You're like, let's find a way to screw ourselves up a little bit, and let's find our ways to fail and set crazy standards that maybe we can meet, but we're probably going to fail at it a few times. Ducky drills, or stretching and getting in the house in 60 seconds or less, or mask ups in 10 seconds or less. I felt like we always set a pretty good bar, and we were always kind of rising up to meet that expectation. But if you can do that with each other, and then you have a whole crew full of people that are expecting a lot out of each other, that ends up being a really, really, really special place that I know we had together. But I think it's really, really rare to find other places. And it doesn't matter if it's a big city or a small town department. It's very rare. So when you find that, it's a special thing.
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot on our shift and on here. I mean, that's part of the reason I love going to work, is we've found a way to maintain that with even the changeover that we've had. I mean, our shift, we've maintained that, and it's a blast to come in. I mean, you get everybody involved. We get all of our mask ups done. We get to have our goals that we're starting to. One still does this really well with Wes. They still have their monthly lists and everything.
Absolutely.
We've just now started trying to keep them up on the whiteboard and throw them. We're only at like a daily right now, trying to do our masked up ladder throws and whatever that we keep on there. But I know Ones has done that for a long time, and I really like that on theirs. They got that list that they made each month of how many they're going to get, and got every once in a while, if I work a trade on the last day, Shugs will just be like, "Oh, I got to go force 26 doors."
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit.
That's the way it is, though, baby. Those are the good days.
And we are getting so busy now too. I mean, we are on track to hit 3,000 right now. The number that we had to get is keep going, because we're just been running off the hook. So you get a month where you're busy there, and you see even on the last day, like, maybe he didn't actually get 26 stores that day because we were probably running more calls there. But he damn well tried. And knowing Shugs, he probably was down there too.
Of course he is.
Like, I mean, he's gonna get it done. We shouted him out like 2 episodes ago. So there's your other one, Shugs. Yeah. Oh no, whatever one was with Duffy. I said that we called him an asshole, or that I said that he called me on my shit. He's like, "You made me sound like an asshole." I was like, "No, I was saying it was a good thing."
Nobody chugs a half gallon of chocolate milk like Shugs does. Okay, plain and simple.
The best.
Those are the best. I have video.
Proof.
No, we love you, Shugs. We love you. But
that's right.
It was, it's something we tried to do. We do that a lot now, and trying to get that done, and instilling that in our younger one, because our most recent hire, she didn't have any fire experience. She actually got her fire certs when she was hired with us. So she came in as a paramedic. That was the first time that we've done something like that. So having that kind of reverse flip, where we haven't been really focused on like the EMS and getting someone through paramedic, we've had to be focused on fire. And I know the first couple times for me, it was like she'd ask to pull a line or something that seemed really basic and have a really basic question. And at first you're like, really? And then it's like, oh no, like this is at the fire one level, right? This is where we gotta bring it down to. And so repeating those skills even better, because
Yeah.
I know there's a couple times you're like, man, I haven't done this in a long time. Like
you said something there, like, and I'm not going to disagree with you or say that, but I hear this all the time. And it's like, we got to bring it down to that level. And I see it completely the reverse. It's like
okay.
and that you're saying the same thing. Trust me. It's just the perspective is what it is.
Okay. No, I want to hear it. Yeah.
For me, we got to set the standard, right? So we're not bringing it down to her level. We're going to bring her up to our standard. Okay. Because what happens, and this is something I've heard a lot going to other departments for trainings and stuff, is, well, we got some new guys and, they don't know this very much. So we got to keep on coming to the lowest common denominator. And that's really kind of like a bullshit way to look at things, right? Because you're always going to get new people. Does that mean we're always going to just keep bringing down training to the lowest common denominator? Or are we just going to set our standard and make sure everybody's maintaining that and coming up and meeting our expectations? So it's just the perspective you bring to the training.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that if you set your expectations high, you can bring anybody there. And like Brennan's a prime example of that. He was a cadet and he was doing stuff that other people that had been full-time for years couldn't do. And I'm not just saying Beaver Dam, other places, people you would see out training, they couldn't do that skill, but Brennan could do it because he was shown the proper way, or he was drilled on it hard, and he saw the value in being challenged. So, just having that attitude brings a lot, but it's a way of doing things. Now we get a lot of people with zero experience, but that's also where working at a Beaver Dam Fire Department or a smaller department where you only got like 5 to 8 guys per shift, that is your breeding ground for outstanding firemen. And the reason being is you cannot hide at those fire departments.
Yeah.
You are expected to do your job, and if you don't, people know it. Because if you fail at it, people will know it because something didn't go right on the fire ground. Then you cannot hide behind other people. You can't stand in a big long line and walk the fire out because you got 30 swinging dicks around. You have to be able to do your job. And I truly believe that's, those departments are overlooked, but they really shouldn't be, because that's where you're really going to learn how to be a good fireman.
Yeah. And that's exactly the perspective that you should have. That's the officer coming through. That's awesome.
Oh, don't go that far now.
No, but that is true. Cause that perspective is not, maybe that's kind of how I was thinking of running that, but that was not the perspective I had. It was that we had to come down to their level for that. But that's a very good, and that's something I'm gonna take with, is even, like I say, even though that may be how we were kind of doing it, having that perspective is going to change how we lay it out. We're going to stop the comments of, we got to teach you this and then we can learn there. Like they'll cause comments that maybe would bring that down to not be there anymore.
Well, and think about it this way, right? So how are we supposed to expect them to do something when they've never seen it in their life, or they've never had that experience? Mm-hmm. Who's failing if after 6 months this person still can't pull a line appropriately? Is it them failing, or is it us failing? In my opinion, it's us, because we obviously have not found that way to teach them that they understand, or we're not out there enough showing them how to do their job, period. Mm-hmm. So in the, as an officer, as a mentor, or as a senior firefighter, you have to take that on your own shoulders to be like, I need to go work with them more. And this has just been an awesome thing for me. I've been reaching out to, I'm trying to learn more stuff from educators. So like their doctoral and education students, or they have doctorates in education. And I'm asking them questions about how do you teach something to somebody that's older, or what's the, how does the mind work when you get past 30, or how are you teaching things now with math and stuff? And they have such an insight in how to teach people stuff that it's been awesome to learn, because it's helped me a ton in trying to teach younger kids stuff, because they're getting taught completely different than I was. But it's also helped with teaching some of the older guys that can't retain information as well. And it really helps with firefighting. It's an amazing thing, right? Let's look outside of our little pigeonhole of firefighting to other realms and bring it back to our job and make us better. So it's another thing I say, look outside of your box a little bit, and look outside of your pigeonhole and learn from these other people that their job is teaching, right? They can show you a lot of valuable tricks. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Brennan, how important is math in your everyday?
Oh yeah. So we went to the school to deliver a shield, and it was my old 5th grade teacher that we went to. I didn't know that at the time, but
You didn't remember your 5th grade teacher,
I
Brennan?
I was like, yeah, you look familiar. I was like, yeah, you're my 5th grade
It
teacher.
gets
I was like,
better.
oh, so we're staying up front with a bunch of kids in the room, right? And this other TA, I think she was. I was just like, how's important math in the fire service? I was like, to be honest with you, I suck at math. It takes a
Me
a whole
too.
7 guys and girls to come together to figure out a math problem in the fire.
That's right. But we
I
get
was
it
like,
done.
we work as a team. That's what I said. I was like, we get it done. We always get it done. And I
But all
And,
these 5th graders heard was math doesn't mean shit.
Yeah, that's right, kids.
The TA is like, I think next time we're gonna have to coordinate your response before we ask the question.
I was like,
The
I'm not
next,
gonna lie to
the
you.
next
But it
generation
wasn't
of knuckle draggers. Yeah, all right.
It wasn't even math. It was what was like
It's
what is
fractions.
how often do you divide a common denominator fraction in your everyday life? And even I'm
I
like,
was like, I don't know.
What?
But I know how to do pump math.
That's right.
I Georgie
That's
it.
Georgette. That's right, Gio. You were just here this morning, my man. So
no, but yeah, that's extremely accurate. It's just the educator mindset of getting outside that bubble. People talk about the fire department bubble, but that's a great thing to look at. I've said that for like the medic class at the college that I've been helping with. She's a paramedic as well, but has her, I think, master's in education. And you can see a real difference in like the presentations and stuff. Is
absolutely.
You know, she's got the experience to back it, but the organization, the way of teaching, especially when you have to teach medic to a bunch of firemen, like well, and there, there's
already a hard job.
There's non-firefighters there too, but most of them are, and it's like, it's just that she finds a way to make everything organized and engaged and very where they're retaining a lot of stuff. And I've said that without even thinking about getting stuff from them. But I'm like, yeah, it seems like having an education background is really helpful to teaching people. Yeah. Oh shit.
Oh my gosh.
Touched.
Yeah.
But no, that's on the head. That's awesome. All right. Now, this is where I expect lots of weeds and lots of fun to come out of these questions. So this one is one that we decided that we're going to start asking a lot more because it got brought up as, so at the end, we'll have you ask our next guest question. We've got one from Knowles for you, but this got brought up twice and it just sparked very good conversation and it can go 90 different ways. So the question is simply, why are we here?
Oh gosh, that's like my little thing, huh?
Yeah, that's why I was like, yep, this one's coming back.
Yeah, I mean, so that's like part of like my little presentation, like from Sawdust and stuff. Like that's the biggest thing I ask is why we're here. And I just say I hate the generic answer of like we're here to help people, because that's what I compare it to is like that's Aaron Rodgers saying he went to the NFL to throw a football around. Mm-hmm. That kind of comes with the job, right? We're going to help people. And my retort to that is we're here to be the best. We're here to be the best firemen and best paramedics if you have to be. You possibly can be, and we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to the communities we serve to try and be the best. And some people will say that's arrogant or egotistical, and I would just have to disagree. I think anytime you're in a job that people's lives depend on, your desire to be the best should be one of the first things in your mind, knowing damn well that you'll probably never be the best fireman. I mean, we're not Mike Champo and we're not Jack McGinnis. We're not all these guys that have just 8 billion times more experience than us, but we can try to be as good as them, and we can try to be as good as them every single day and learn something that's going to help somebody else. So I think we're here to be the best possible firemen we can possibly be, period. And everything else falls into play after that. Like I said, the helping people, that just comes with the territory. We're going to help people. But I also think we get stuck in this place where a lot of people are accidentally successful on a frequent basis. A lot of people don't put a lot of time into their craft or don't put a lot of time into their job in general. And eventually you see it, right? So I think we're here to be the best. We're here to be the best people we possibly could be. And I think that's a really important thing to realize when you come into this profession, is that you should always try to be the best. And again, full well knowing you probably won't be. but you have the attitude, the Michael Jordan attitude. You go shoot free throws every day because it might come down to the last second and your free throw that's going to win that national championship. That guy put in that much blood, sweat, and tears for a basketball game. And we're going out there to possibly save somebody's lives. And we have people that don't give a shit. That's kind of a problem, right? You have guys in the NFL, and granted, they get paid a lot of money. But a lot of them are just there to go win a Super Bowl or go win a national championship. And they put all that time and effort sitting at a free throw line or chucking a ball 20 yards to go and win a championship. And we got people that are more willing to be recliner pilots that might be going to save your son or daughter's life. And I think that's very unfair.
Yeah.
But
even so, like Caitlin will say, my girlfriend will say all the time, like if she has a bad day at work or she messes up at work, she's a hairstylist. Like they come back and they get their hair redone. If we have a bad day at work or we do something stupid or we, don't train, somebody's not coming home, whether it be us or the civilians that we're there to protect. Like, and you're right. There's people that seem to just not grasp that. It's like, I'm here to get paid to watch TV. And then I get to go run the lights every once in a while.
Yeah.
Like,
and honestly, a lot of people haven't truly been challenged. They haven't had those calls that really challenge them and put them in that position. So in some ways it's that just, passivity that comes from not getting challenging calls or not being put in that position where you have to be successful. So I'm not going to say it's not their fault because it is. You got to take it seriously. But a lot of people are never going to have that in their entire career, right? So it's hard for them to get motivated themselves. But the first time you do, it motivates you, right? And sometimes you got to take that past experience of others and their stories. And that's where hanging on to that tradition and those older guys in the department and telling you what they've experienced is very beneficial because they can tell you when the chips were down and they had to perform, right? There's that old saying, like when the chips are down, you're back against the wall, there's always hope. And like in that little thing that I give, I cross out, there's always hope. I cross out always. And I said, we are the hope. Like we're it in these situations. There's nobody else. And you have to take that seriously when bystanders are sitting out there watching a fire and they're like, oh man, I hope those people are okay. They are not just saying they hope they're okay. They're saying, I hope the fire department does their job. I hope they go save them. That's what they're truly saying. And that's what we got to think of every single day.
Well, and I know either we've had or I've had it with other people who share that same idea of, you're not here because you want to help people. Like the other side of that is you're going to get burnt out if that's truly why you're in it. Because we talked about that. The 80% is EMS and your 20% is fire. But of that 80% of EMS, only 5 or 10% of that is actually helping people.
Yeah, right.
And as soon as you get into that mindset, big city, small, like I just had the conversation the other day about that. At a big city, your break from like EMS calls is you get a fire. For like us in Beaver Dam, we get a nice trauma. And then we get a little bit of fire every once in a while. But like there's always going to be your department's big call that you do get to go do a lot that you get to be really good on. And then you sometimes go to your fires. But no matter what department you go to, a majority of your calls are total bullshit. And if you are only there to help people, it is going to just drain you and burn you out instantly. But like you said, if you want to be your best, you can be the best damn BLS center facility guy you ever want to be. Like if you want to be your best, you have a goal that you're going to be. But helping people, you're only going to get upset with how the world is, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's big city, small town. We just last shift we talked about the age old excuse, which is really all it is of that only happens big city.
Beaver Dam knows that's not the case, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we don't get fired. Like we don't get 10 fires a day.
We got some weird shit. Weird shit though.
Yeah, we should get more based on the stuff that we come across through our bullshit EMS stuff. Like somebody defrosting the underneath of their mobile home with a blowtorch.
Yeah, right. Perfect.
On an accidental pendant push. Like it's just that we should get more, but we're not going to get those 10 calls a day. But that doesn't mean that 10 we get a year, you don't have to be your best on, or somebody's gonna, something's gonna happen.
Well, and there's the other part that goes along with that is, if you are all jacked up on a call and you fuck it up real bad, you might not be able to try and repair that for 2 months. And that's hard.
Yeah, yeah.
That's hard for people that want to be want to really push themselves to deal with. So you got to find a way to work that out through your training. But that exposes things to ourselves and to the people we work with of stuff you have to work on in training then too, right? So we should be taking, just like another sports adage, but just like the NFL or basketball, we should be taking that game footage and saying, hey, we kind of sucked the last 2 fires on these things. We got to train more on these 2 things, and then use that to project your training in a certain direction. So, and as a fire service, we got to do a better job of that. We got to be real. Helmet cams are great. We learned a lot about, we like to wear them, which was great because it gave us game film to go off. But I think more departments would really benefit from having visual aids in their training and saying, hey, like, let's look at the game film from the last 6 fires, and we can probably pick out a few points of things we can train on for the next 3 months. I think that would really help departments get better instead of just checking off boxes every year for training.
Yeah, we've been able to do that with our last 2 fires. So I've had my GoPro. Brandon had his on for the first one. I think you had yours on for CC, right? But oh no, you were pumping. But he what did have, like, Chief said that he was grabbing ladders off of 71 before it was even in park.
I had,
he had thrown
ladders thrown and 71s before the air brakes.
That's my boy right there.
Well, we were inside doing it though, so
yeah. I was kind of pissed off.
No, so the last 2 I've had my GoPro on, and we got to go over the footage. It's been good. The first one I had to force, and I wanted to share it because I watching it over, I didn't even remember I did this, but we had an acquired structure that day, and so we were out there and we were just messing around with anything that we could to do stuff. And one of them, I think Joanne asked about the baseball swing, and I was like, I've never done this. I said, I don't think I will. I just, like, I go in here, but it looks like this. I did it and popped on the doors. Fast forward 5 hours, we got that fire come in, and it was an old farmhouse. And so I ran up to it, had my irons, and I was like, I'm gonna fucking baseball swing. Missed. Just I hit there's the little indents of the door.
Yeah.
I hit the indents in the center of the door, and so I swung, hit, went shit. And then in the video, you hear me just look up, and I go, "Oh, hello." There's a glass pane right next to the doorknob.
The door handle.
Just pop the glass pane, reach in, open it up. I'm like, so I watched that. I really wanted to share it, but that was part of, like, our new policy that we put in, is we're not able to share any of those, which is good. We use it internally, but I really wanted to, because I was watching. I was like just the mindset of looking at it afterwards, being like, what the fuck were you thinking? Like, just because we were doing these things earlier, I said, oh, I'm never gonna do this. And I was like, I'll give it a shot. And then without actually scanning the door, I did try it. That would have been even better, as if I didn't try it and just on the door was unlocked. But that was, I had to wait. I still had to wait because I didn't even get to force. So it was a sliding glass door for the next fire that I got to open. Yeah. I was hoping it came in. I was like, yes, I'm going to get to make up for the force that I messed up. And it was just an open sliding glass door. So it didn't help out. W found out, though, that W tried to kick in the door that ended up being metal reinforced.
Oh,
so
I hopped off the engine with a set of irons. I threw them by the door before I grabbed the hose line, hoping W would just, hey, here's the Halligan, pop this door while we will pull the line. He decided to start kicking, and I was like, W, irons are right there, use them. Which he did, or I think he did.
He did to get it open after.
There you go.
That was one that we talked about after, because we got the W actually then getting the police body cam as well. So we've been able to match our body cam with theirs to see first arrival. And it really is beneficial and awesome to see, just as a department. So W pointed out that you could see him kicking it, and he was laughing at himself about it, that he should have just grabbed the irons. Like, we said that we're 0 for 2 on the last fires with a solid force. But I mean, it's not just even your personal. Like the last fire, what was really cool to see on the body cam was it was in a house that was like in the city, but actually in the township. Yeah. So we had our BDPD
Madison
that were
Street,
there.
Right?
Yep, we had our BDPD that were there, and then we had sheriffs that were coming. Well, our PD was first on scene. They were doing shit, making sure that everyone was out. There was a whole bunch of conflicting reports about if there was people inside or not. But then one of the officers was running back, and the sheriff came flying up and stopped, like, perfectly, like you'd see it on any meme, in front of the fire hydrant. the only fire
Yeah,
hydrant
buddy.
in that area, directly across from the building. But our PD saw it immediately, and you can see on the camera is immediately yelling at the sheriff. It's like, keep going, you're in front of a fire hydrant.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's something that we've now, because we have such a good relationship with our PD,
Oh,
that we
for
can
sure.
talk through
It's always great.
with training. We talked with all this stuff. We talk on
Mm-hmm.
EMS calls, like we say, we do over CPR with them, and they know exactly what to do there. But that was the first thing I texted them right after. I was like, hey, when we watched the video, I was like, we just watched your video. We're like, nice job on getting them away from the hydrant. We're like, that would have been a pain. Like, that would have been awful if that would have happened. He's like, yeah, I was looking for it, making sure to see where it was for you guys. And I'm like, that's just, everybody says, oh, cops take the front of the house. Like, that's always what happens. But if you have that relationship, it makes things really cool that we can talk about that stuff with them and see it firsthand that they actually are paying attention and helping us out there.
For sure.
Yeah, that footage is awesome to go over. But yeah, that was exactly how I expected the first rabbit hole to go down. So now we got two more. I'm gonna throw in another one. So
Shoot.
This is the one that I was saying that Brennan and I were just talking about, because I'll throw in mine after you get done with this point about why I brought this up. But describe the disconnect of the term safety in the fire service.
Oh, yeah, man. Gosh, I think it's where safety comes from. So this is a big point we're hitting on right now in our leadership part of our current department. I was kind of lucky enough to go out to leadership under fire in October, which was a week outside of Baltimore. And unfortunately, we had a tragedy happen with guys we were with. While we were out there, we had 2 line of duty deaths that happened. And we're with the chief that was running that call up until about an hour before he had to deal with it. But a big part of the conversation during the week was where safety falls in our profession. And one of the funny things we did is we walked kind of through what characteristics we wanted to see in a leader. And everybody's saying respect, integrity, competency, listener, mentor, all that stuff. A lot of great attributes that I think every leader should have. And then the question was asked, if you were leading your men and women at the firehouse or in a fire, what is your main concern, or what is the attribute you need to have that you owe to your men and women? And then all of a sudden the conversation changed to everybody goes home and safety and all this kind of stuff. So it kind of threw me into this conversation that I came back home and used it. And I was like, it's really funny that nobody wants a safe officer. That's not like their number one thing they're thinking about. It's not even like the 30th thing they're thinking about when they're talking about attributes of somebody that's leading them into battle is safety. But then the minute we flip it around on somebody and say, what is something you need to be aware of when you're leading men and women? And they were all going immediately to safety. So it's like we're like talking out of both sides of our mouth, right? But it's because of responsibility. When you have other people that you're responsible for and you're thinking about their wives and kids, it's the fact that nobody wants to see any of those people die. Nobody wants to see any of them hurt real bad. But at the same token, you got to go with the old Marine Corps mantra of, to be a leader, you have to be willing to see what you love destroyed to accomplish the mission. All right. Nobody wants that to happen. Everybody hopes to God it's never going to happen. But in jobs like ours, it could. And you might love that person, but you might send them in to do something that could possibly kill them. Right. So what happens is everybody puts this equation together that says, like, safety equals good operations and a good fire department, when it really should just be flipped around, and good fire department, good operations, good training equals safety, right? That's what we should be focusing on, is everything we are doing at the firehouse and training and the people we're developing in equals a safe environment for us. Because we're never going to be 100% safe. Never, ever going to happen on anything we do. More people are died in crashes going to calls in their units or on the highway working a crash than we are in fires. So I guess we should never leave the bay floor, right? It's kind of a ridiculous argument. So we just have to do everything we can in our training, in our culture, in our environment, in our love for one another at the firehouse to equal that safety, which is just everybody cares that much for each other that they want to be the best, most badass firemen to make sure all of you go home at the end of the day. But make that the mantra. We're never going to leave you. You know, we might die curled up next to you, but we're going to try everything possible because we're the best possible firemen we can be, you know?
Yeah.
But safety just hijacked that whole narrative. And people think that just, you know, wearing a safety vest and doing all this stuff is really what matters. And that's going to make us safer. One, a drunk driver is going to hit you wearing a safety vest or not. It makes the lawyers happy that you had one on, but guess what? Your funeral's still the same. Okay. So it's just one of those things of affect change with things that are actually going to affect change. Don't just do it because it's a liability driven thing, you know, make it because it's going to make a difference. Train because it's going to make a difference. Make changes in policies because it's going to make a difference. Don't get butthurt when other people want to make a change. Don't take it personally, because isn't our job every day to look at something that's going to make our job easier or better? We should be finding things constantly. And if you have people that are willing to invest their time in doing that, then we should just be championing that. It might not work out in the end, but we should be pushing that direction. So safety is the result of everything we do, not the premise of everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think you hit it with talking about especially your officers and stuff too, because I've heard that from a lot of new officers and experienced ones when you start to ask advice, and the kind of quote that to send somebody in to do something that I would do, but because I accept the risk for myself, and now you got to flip that and be like, you know, can I accept that risk for you? And I've heard that a lot. It's like that was the hardest thing for a lot of officers to get over, that they're still trying to work and get over, is like seeing something that needs to be done and going, well, if that was me, I would do it, but God, that's a little dangerous. Do I really want to send this person to do it? Like, you really got to just trust in your crew and be like, yeah, they're gonna get it done. Like, that's what your training with them does. If I would do it, if you as the officer of your crew would do it, every one of those crews should and could be able to do it. Like that.
And that's the biggest point, man. Like, training out with them, right? You can't trust your folks to do something you would do if you've never been out there training with them. Your chiefs can't trust you to do something if they've never been out there training with you and seeing your capabilities. So it drives me bonkers when I hear chief officers, chiefs, or other people say, we can't do that. You can't do that. Well, actually, we can. We've been training on it for 3 months, and we are the most badass company at this. You've just never been there to witness it because you've been at your desk too long. So you got to be out there training. You have to show each other. You might have to drag them kicking and screaming out there to the training ground to watch you. But when they see you doing what you're doing, you get to the point where, like, and you guys have experienced, the first 5 minutes, you hear nothing on the radio because we're just going. And they just know, I'm not going to ask shit. I don't need a power report. I don't need a CAN report yet, because right now I know they're working. If I don't hear after 3 or 4 minutes, well, then maybe I'm going to say how things going in there, you know? But it helps everything go a lot better with that trust. So.
Yeah, again, like, throwing back in a shout out to our shift. That's something we've talked about a lot here, is how we've been able to operate and get to that point where our officers do know that shit's gonna go. I mean, the amount of times that, like, we're either in a training or on the last fire that I think on the way to Madison Street, Brennan and I were actually both riding backwards, and W was like, Brennan, just do what you got to do. Like, we knew it was like, Brennan's on the pipe. I was going to get search started because our truck was down, so we were running the engine as like a kind of split, which we tend to do anyway. If it's
we were a ground ladder game, you know. That was our jam anyway. So.
Well, the ladder itself is never rescue operation unless you're on a high rise, which we only have one that we would possibly be using. I mean, that's something we've talked about a lot. Is the ladder going up is never a rescue operation. That is never something that needs to be, you know, stressed or anything. But that's just how it works, and works smooth when you've got your crew that can do that. Yeah. But yeah, what brought that question is I couldn't believe it, because I just finished up my Officer 2 stuff. And it was, especially this, like, it's a stupid safe cert. I got it, so I'm done with certs for like ever now. I'm never gonna have to take another cert class. But I was doing one of the last ones, and they were the classes and like the little mini ones you have to take from a National Fallen Firefighter Foundation. Yeah, which, like, you know, obviously they see a lot of it. They're gonna have a different spin or a different turn on it, but there was a panel discussion on it, and they got on the talk of safety. And the one said, well, the fact of the matter is, most of the time, the building isn't occupied until we go in it. And immediately I was like, I don't like that. And then another person chimed in and said, yeah, actually, if you think about it, most of the time we bring the victims to the fire in our fire engines because we are the victims. And I was like yeah, it like I was sick. I couldn't pay attention. I barely passed that, but I couldn't pay attention to anymore. I was like, that I didn't just hear that, especially when you think like now this is a class that, per the state of Wisconsin, every person taking it has to sit through and go through.
Yeah.
Now that's something that everybody, not everybody's going to listen to that or think about that, but like that is a comment that every future or current whatever officer is going to hear.
Yeah.
And I just the disconnect, mind you, like I was telling Brennan, that's where we got the disconnect question, because I don't think those people would roll up to a structure fire at 2 a.m. with cars on the driveway and go, we're keeping everybody outside. Like, I don't think that's what they would do. But there is such a disconnect in that mindset where now you get 2 a.m. residential with everybody with no cars in the driveway, and homeless person or neighbor goes, I think everybody's out.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
what are they going to do then? What does fire rescue survey tell us? Like,
so you said like National Fallen Firefighters like was operating that kind of part of the class, right? And they do absolutely fantastic things for the fire service. Mm-hmm. But what a hypocritical or a hypocritical organization that has a sign that says everybody goes home when they're sponsoring events like the 9/11 climb where 343 guys didn't go home, right? Mm-hmm. For doing their job. So not everybody goes home. That's just a fact of the matter. But we're not putting ourselves as the victims in the building, nor do we have X-ray vision yet. You have to go in to find that out. And we're seeing on a almost weekly basis people going into vacant fires and pulling victims out. So it's not an acceptable excuse. It's one that people like to say to make themselves feel good, sitting in a chair. But I don't truly think that's the mantra of 95% of the American fire service. Yeah. I still think we're one of the most aggressive fire services in the world. With our tactics and how we do things. And I still think a victim in the United States has the best chance of getting out as compared to anywhere else in the world. But it gets very dangerous when we have mantras like that out there all the time. Because like everybody does not go home. And you guys have heard me talk on this before too. I had a significant amount of friends that were in high-end military jobs and military careers that had them kicking in doors constantly. One of my buddies had been doing it for 26 years. And he comes out and he's like, some guy in a man dress someday, even though I've been training and probably one of the best trained, assaulters in the United States military. And he's like, some guy in a man dress someday I could pop through the door and he's just going to spray and pray like this and he's going to dome me. Does that mean he was better than me? No, it means it was his lucky day and it wasn't mine. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter. He had the best training in the world. The other guy probably picked up an AK-47 when he was 16 and shot it a couple times. But sometimes the fire is going to get lucky. Sometimes that guy in a man dress is going to get lucky. Just the way it is. We can't do anything about that. Yeah. We can't do anything about fate in the end, but we can do everything up until that point to try and make sure we don't die and we don't become the victim. But we can do that stuff. People trapped in house can't do shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They didn't have the chance to prepare for this. And that's another thing I talk about is we have pizza men and we have 4-year-olds and 11-year-olds running back into burning buildings to save people and dying for it. And we have people that are with the best gear in the world, the best training in the world that are unwilling to. It might be time to get a different profession. Mm-hmm. If the Domino's pizza man is going to run in and save 3 kids and he didn't take an oath and he didn't raise his right hand to do it, but you won't. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's think about that once. Because let me tell you what, if somebody took an oath to come get his kids or that person's kids from their house when they're gone on shift, I would sure hope that they took the oath to give it everything they have to go in and get them, right? Yeah. And it's an overused thing, some might say, but you guys were there with me. I asked the same thing. If your kid was, laying there P&B on the floor, if your kid was trapped in a building, were you the one? Do you want to be the one that has to go in and get them? Do you have the faith that you are their best chance of getting out? And hopefully everybody's saying yes. And if they're saying no, realistically, and being honest with themselves, well, maybe that's the kick in the tail it takes for them to then go seek some more training and try to get there, you know?
Yeah. I'm so glad that you brought up that analogy, because I can't tell you how often I do use it. Because the first time I heard you said that or explain that with your buddy, like that was something that absolutely stuck, because that was something growing or coming into it that, you know, mentally you don't connect. Like, yeah, I train so much, I do all this stuff here, but you know, I could still get hurt. Why really is that? And I think, I don't know, for some reason putting it into that terms really does make that connection point of like, you're training to minimize the risk. The risk is never going to be zero. But the more you train, the better you are going to be at recognizing situations. But at the end of the day, if the fire wants what the fire wants, you know, everything doesn't always come with a warning. Sometimes it's just your time.
It's a two-sided coin, right? Like, just like those special forces guys, you know, they are in their profession and they put themselves in a lot of positions where they have the opportunity to die, and they get killed at a decent rate because of that. They're in those situations more, right? And just like in the fire service, a lot of the firemen that die in fires on searches aren't your shitty firemen. They're extremely good, and that's why they've put themselves in that situation, because they had the feeling that they were the best chance and they had the training to possibly do something about it, right? So that's just the way it goes sometimes. You know, you guys know this. I like scripture. I'm big on some of that stuff. And someday your ticket's going to be punched, right? We don't get the opportunity to know what that is, but any one of us could sit there and say, if it was on the fire ground trying to do everything we could for somebody, that'd probably be okay with us, and okay only in the fact that we were doing what we were capable of, not in the fact that we're leaving behind people that love us, because that's never going to be okay for them. It's a selfish way to look at things, but that is, when you're in the moment, you have to be that way. That can be your only focus. So
I had to laugh because you reminded me of Brennan's favorite quote of the one-way ticket to Jesus land, when you punch your ticket. So,
there you go. Gonna punch that ticket today. Gonna punch that ticket. So.
More of the gallows humor that we always talk about, you get in here. But yeah, it's you know, that a lot of, I mean, like we said, you've been a mentor that's coming up. I use a lot of the stuff that you expose me to through your own quotes or the one you get, but talking about with the family, like, you know, that we're running into the building, the last thought in our mind, or the first thought in our mind, isn't our family back home and what's going on there. It's the family that's in the house, or the people that are in the house, or the job that needs to be done. It's not that we want to not come home to the family or to die or leave them. Like, you can't be thinking about that. You have to be thinking about getting the job done, because that's what makes things safer and what makes, you know, what we signed up to do, what you raised your right hand to do, what you promised to do. And that, I mean, it's exactly how. That's why, full circle, your family at the firehouse is so important. Yeah. If your family knows that your family is going to bring you home.
It was a really unique perspective, because out at Leadership Under Fire, we got to meet some guys that went through some pretty serious shit. In fact, we were out there with, I think it was probably 6 or 7 total that had experienced line of duty deaths within the last 2 years, and they were there for them. So they were part of the line of duty death. They were part of the rescue operations. And some of them were involved in it where they were in the situation of, they thought they were going to be in the same spot. And they're like, man, I didn't think about shit. I thought about, like, the fact that I wasn't going to go to Lowe's and pick up the stuff my wife wanted that afternoon. And you're just in there like, that's just crazy, you know, like, but to get that honest view on things was just absolutely insane. And then, you know, some of the guys that were out there were on Frederick County were the ones that got Josh Laird out of the house after he said, you know, tell my family I love them. That was the last radio transmission. And hearing shit like that, and Stricker Street and all these big ones, and being able to talk to them was a really, really special experience that I hope everybody seeks out that opportunity, or if they're around those people, knows to shut their mouth and listen, because those are experiences that cannot be replaced, and really puts things into perspective. But I'm not going to share too much of it, because that's their story to tell. But man, it's a great learning experience and just a great mindset experience. So
yeah, Yeah, that was something that the from IAFF, from the course that we did, the
Yeah.
fireground survival.
Kenny, man.
It was something that
Oh,
that was a great course. I mean, Kenny, we had Kenny on. That was
yeah,
awesome. I want to get back on there, talk to me. Such a great guy. I want to go to Boston and visit him, see him up
he
there.
is, man. He's the man.
He is
They got some
awesome.
great folks out there. So
Yeah, get to FDTN and see him too. That'd be awesome.
Yep.
But one of the things that came from it, because the instructor one of the first days, you know, they talked about that they've prided that there has been close calls and things that they've experienced from people that have taken the class, and that they never want to hear that you gave up. They're like their goal is that they're never there. And you hear all these clips of the tell my family I love them, and you know, like you can't imagine what they're experiencing there. There probably is zero chance, you know, that's when they've accepted what's going to happen. But that was something with all the great technology that I've done is now I have a little button on my phone that sends that message that says I love you when we have our fires drop. And I've also tied it to start our job town playlist, which is great because then we start bumping it on the way there. But like that's just something, because for me I was sitting there thinking, and you listen to all these, and like I said, you can't imagine what they're going through. There probably was nothing that you can do at that point. But for me, all I heard was that was when you gave up, and maybe it's not, maybe that's it's not time to, but my personal, and I hope to God I never have to experience it, my personal thought is, as long as I've said it, I said that message, I've said it plenty of times in my life too, but I won't give up until the very, you know, the last minute, the last breath. Like I'm going to do everything I can. And it's an extremely interesting perspective when you start listening to all these line of duties and see it. Like that was just one that I came up with. I can't imagine what other people go through it to when they experience it, or when they dive into them, listen to them, go to this training that you're talking about. Like it makes it real.
It does, yep. And it, you know, like it's all bravado until we get put in that situation. We can all sit here and talk like this, right? That's how we're going to be, but we don't know. And hopefully, you know, some of us do, some of us don't. But hopefully, you never get put in that situation of knowing, you know, what you're truly going to be like in those last moments. But we can prepare ourselves to avoid them. You know.
Exactly. Yeah. Talking to those people that went through it is just an extremely humbling and good way to figure that stuff out and mentally get you ready for if that were to ever happen. Like you say, you're never going to know until the time comes how you're going to react. So yeah, that was another one I knew we'd get deep into there. But yeah, that term safety is just thrown out everywhere. I knew I was really wanting to have that in there and talk to you about it because from which I'll give you time to shout it out. Your Sawdust City Fire Expo you gotten back when you opened it up. I know I do it all the time too. But when you open it up like that, I mean, I knew you'd have that with the Everyone Goes Home. So that's just a great one. We'll give you time to shout it out once we get through the last two questions.
It's all good. Yeah.
No, so now we've got our closing questions, which again we'll know you go deep into. This one is from Knowles, and my chair is lowering itself. Okay.
Yeah, them Knowles, the man. Yeah.
So it was from Knowles on our last episode. And his simply take it however you want. He talked about a little bit in his personal life, about his career, and just touching on a lot of it. But would you go back and change anything? Personal, career, wherever you take it from.
Absolutely. And I try to do that with the new firemen coming in, is try and make sure they don't make the same mistakes I did for my first 3 years, and primarily just attitude wise. It takes a lot of introspection to realize what you've done wrong, and I think a lot of people that live with the no regrets mantra and I wouldn't change anything mantra are just kind of lazy, and they just feel like, whatever, they don't really look too deeply into things. But there's definitely things I would change, and one would just be my coming into the fire service and the attitude I had, like I talked about previously. But now I can help other people not do the same thing. That's kind of a, it's a good role to be in because I did do it. So if I can, hopefully make it maybe a year-long time in their career instead of 3, maybe it'll help them move faster. Something else different, just learning to be more level. That's been my biggest thing now is, I think stress at home and stress other places really didn't allow me to be settled down at work. And I loved work and I loved focusing on work, but it was always in the back of my head. And getting rid of that kind of stuff and that negativity that you can bring in, and just being level every day really benefits you, and then it benefits everybody around you, because they know who they're getting each day, and who you're bringing to the table each day. So that's like a big focus of mine now, is just coming in every day with the right attitude and being a good representative of the firemen that I want to see come up from the ground level at this point, you know. But how are they going to do that if they don't have a good example? So for me, it's like having the passion. That's number one, and we all have that in this room right now. I mean, we're a passionate group of guys. We absolutely love this job. But also, like I said, that love earlier, and it's a thing that doesn't get said as much in the fire service. But when you truly love somebody else and you love the people you work with, you'll go to the end of earth for them. And that can be, like we talked about, anywhere from the fire ground to just the dinner table. But listening to them and listening to their concerns and then trying to do something about it, even if it's at work or at home, that means a ton to people. And so I think the last thing that goes along with that is just being an advocate. And I'm a huge proponent now of having that be one of my top 3 is just being an advocate for the people you work with. One of the things I do that probably irritates some, I wear a black helmet still. I have a red shield, but I wear a black helmet, and it's just a thing I do because I feel like I'm still one of the guys, and that's where I want to be. And it's just where I belong. But now I'm maturing more to the fact I've probably learned more in the past 3 years about myself than I had in the previous 10. And I just want to keep on learning that way. I want to learn from the people that I work with. And I want them to know that I'm still that person that they can say, hey, I learned this thing at class, or what did you do in this situation in your life? And I'll be that approachable person for them. And just having a black helmet with them is kind of my adage to that. The position means nothing to me. Being a lieutenant means nothing to me in itself. But what does mean something to me in that role is being an advocate for the people below me. Because I know in my career, that's when I got frustrated, is when I didn't think there was somebody advocating for my position, even if they agreed with it. So if people have a concern below me, it's my job then to try and take that up the chain, even if I know the answer might be no. If they see that I'm doing that for them and that I will go to bat for them, they'll do anything for you. And I should be doing anything I can for them. And that's in the end what my biggest, I guess, point would be, is especially in a line officer role or an informal leader role, just show them you give a shit, man. Like, and truly do it. The last part of that is with conviction, and that's the last one I really talk about in our leadership group with the newer officers and the up and coming in Western Lakes. Is if you don't have conviction, you have about nothing in your life. And you know, you primarily hear about conviction when it comes to like spirituality, but we have it day to day, right? If I don't have conviction in what I expect in my firefighters, if I don't tell them to do something with the absolute expectation that they're going to be doing that and that I will do the same thing, you're just really just spitting bullshit. If you don't practice what you preach, you have no conviction. You just have statements that you make that have nothing to back them up. So you have to have conviction in everything you do. And if you show conviction and you show passion and you show that ability to be an advocate, you got the world, man. And they'll give you the world. Those people will give you the world. They will not do anything that makes you do more unnecessary work to protect them or to try and defend them. And I mean, I did this, I know with Wes too. I mean, I felt more disappointed in myself if he had explained something I did, you know, and you don't want to have to do that because you respect that person. And I think you guys can feel the same way. You know, it was something I think we did a really good job of overall. So I don't know, those are some things that I guess I would change for myself, but also maybe some advice for other people in the future. So more than you asked for.
No, it's exactly what we asked for. Yeah, I think the level you've touched on that a lot that's an extremely important thing, especially at the line officer, is not having to, like I've heard the comment of not having to guess what guy you're getting today, what
Absolutely.
guy or girl. Like knowing who you get walking, being able to separate that's important. That's awesome advice, and awesome that you're able to do that, because it really does make things good if you don't have to walk on eggshell like that.
Yeah, and I wasn't able to do that in the past. You know, that was a really hard thing for me. So it's something, you know, you got to look at yourself sometimes and realize that sometimes you're part of that problem. So
yeah, but I mean, and it's like everything else, it's that give and take. Like, it's not that you always have to be that person. If you got some fucked up shit going on,
Sometimes shit happens.
like,
Yeah, absolutely.
sometimes it's not going to be. But if you 99% of the time are, and that 1% happens, like your crew, your friends, your coworkers, boss, even whatever it is, they're going to notice that, and it's going to be okay, hey, what's going on? What do you need? Do you need us to fuck
They'll
off
find a
and
way.
not talk to you?
Yeah.
Or, do you need to, do you
This
want us
is
to
the
go
way,
meet at the
Brennan.
kitchen table? Yeah. Like that makes it there. It's not just, oh, great, somebody
Yeah.
didn't sleep well last night. Like it's a true, you make an effort, and be that consistency is important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, now the turntables to you.
Turn his tables.
Now it is your turn to come up with a question. Much like
Yeah.
everybody who listens should be sending in questions. There were so many damn comments about how great of a guy you are and how excited everybody was to listen to this, but not a single person sent in a question to ask. So Brandon had to come up with all of them again. So
my brain is hurting.
Send in some questions for these people, and you got them.
I got one. Yeah, I mean, I just find it interesting. I ask this to a lot of people now. I ask them, what do you think makes a good fireman? It's a very broad question, but it ends up being a very unique. You get different types of answers from everybody. So I think that's always a good one. What do you think? What do you think makes a good fireman, or what do you see when you look at a guy and say that guy's a good fireman?
And that will be for Brian Jeffries, is going to be our next guest. So he
perfect.
is the IFF's director of deferred comp right now. He was a captain in Arizona. He's a great guy. I'm really excited to talk to him for a lot of those reasons, because he's money smart. And we talked about it. We introduced. He's the first guy that we actually in person approached and was like, hey, would you like to come on this podcast that we have an idea of but haven't recorded a single episode for? And he was like, absolutely, yeah, here's my number. And I was like, holy shit. So he's a great guy. I'll be excited to hear his answer on there. But yeah, that is awesome. That's a great one. Like you said, there's a lot of different ways that you can go into it and look at. But now this is all your time as well. So we've got our kitchen table. So Brett and I got some things to throw in here with bullshit, whatever it may be. But tell us about Sawdust. Tell us about all these other shout outs, anything that you want to get out there.
Sawdust is coming up. So we're working pretty hard on kind of solidifying the lineup, and I think it's going to be pretty good. But May through 3rd through the 5th, I just had a stroke. I'm sorry. May 3rd through the 5th, 2023. It's going to be the Friday night Brotherhood Bash, which is going to be at Fox River Brewing again up in Oshkosh, and then Saturday the day of speakers. We're working on the possibility of hands-on classes. Not sure if that's going to happen this year, but it's going to be coming up in the future. And obviously Pierce is a big supporter of ours with that whole deal, and they do a tremendous amount of work for us there. So we got that coming up, and then also just got some other stuff in the hopper. I'm going to get the guys from Wichita up here at some point this year to do some engine ops and other stuff, and a couple other things we're working on, but too preliminary to let those out of the bag yet. But they're coming up. We're keeping busy. I'm trying to take it a little easy here for now, but until things settle down. But we'll be popping back in there later on this year.
That's awesome. Yeah, we got Hat Trips coming on the podcast, and Frazier will sound like be one of the guests for next year. So
that's perfect, man.
Have a lot of them reach out to maybe get Sam on here. It'd be awesome.
Yeah,
but
solid folks. That's a great department down there. So.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited to get back down there. That was a blast. That was a real good time. So it'll be definitely on our list. Maybe we even try Wichita Hot. That'll be a good one to get down to as well. So, no, that's awesome. Really excited. Yeah, Sawdust was great. Brent and I talked about that a bunch of times. We went to it last year. Final like Wisconsin area. Final like kind of. Wisconsin area. It's a great training that they're going on. It was a blast last year. I can't wait to see what it is this year. So.
And we'll be keeping it affordable. That's the biggest thing for us is trying to keep it affordable for everybody. So we're going to try and shoot for that again this year, like we did last year. So
awesome. Yeah, that's great. Well, Brendan, you got anything for it, or JD got anything else to add? Anything to talk about? It's just our kitchen table part. So it's all the bullshit, whatever you want to share. If there's anything you want to share from catching up that we didn't get to go over in our reminiscent of the Beaver Dam days.
I just love you guys. That's all.
Love you too.
No, I just I had a really good year with meeting people that really helped me get through different things, but also helped me kind of have this like really good self-realization, self-actualization kind of thing of a lot of deep dives this year. And they pointed me in the direction of some authors. Gabe Angemi was one, who's just a brilliant guy. I bring him up as much as possible just because I respect him so much. He's captain out in Camden, but he is also one of the guys that's about to be a doctor, PhD in education. Just he always has a really unique spin on things I don't really think of, and challenges kind of the status quo. And I realize how much I like that now is when people challenge the status quo and ask me questions that spin me around a little bit. And one of the big things he's always talked about is like when he hears people say, let's think outside the box, and how that bothers him so much because most of them don't know what is even in the fucking box to start with. So that's kind of a perspective I've brought into my learning now, is that firefighting is so huge that we're never going to truly know what's in our box, like everything that's in it, because it's always changing too. There's always more added to it. And obviously we had Blatz, you know, who's always looks at life that way and is always learning something new. But it's just it was a really unique spin to hear him say that and then be able to talk to him about it. And then just having, like I said, the pigeonhole thing was a big one this year. I learned more about building construction from an architect, a guy that was had a master's degree in architecture this year, and he came up with this little book of like 80% of the houses in the United States. Like Jordan Legan is his name, from Seattle. Just a phenomenal man, very, very smart. Didn't grow up like necessarily wanting to be the fireman, but became an architect. But then is such a beneficial person to the fire service because of what he learned somewhere else. And just like, you know, jujitsu, right? All right, I can learn how to move a body really well in jujitsu. I know how to lock up and isolate joints better. All these different things that like expand your base a little bit. Look outside of the fire service to learn stuff. We can go to like different classes on the fire service all day long and learn the same tactics and techniques over and over again. And repetition is a key to our job, but don't just pigeonhole yourself into that. Expand yourself out and go to like an education conference or something weird that we would say is weird. There's some there's weird people there, let's be honest. But that is really, but it really just opens your eyes to like this whole different world that you can bring back and really affect the change a lot better in the firehouse that you didn't really expect. So between that and then just meeting people out at like Leadership Under Fire that had these really unique takes. Andrew Whitehead was out there. He kind of makes himself the camp bitch, if you want to call it that way. I think that's how he put himself. But he's one of the older captains on Baltimore City, and he's a phenomenal man. Like I would have loved to work for this guy. He's just quiet, great temperament, tall, thin guy like I am, and but just completely into the job and completely into his people. And like Stricker Street, he was getting off shift, and the guy that eventually went to his death replaced him early that day and took the run when they were still both there. And just instances in life that you learn from are just like, you know, you gotta take those moments to talk to people like that. We put a lot of value into the greatest generation and our World War II vets. And it's extremely important to get their stories out before they pass away, because a lot of them never talked about it. They didn't have podcasts. They didn't have, you know, the ability to go out and tell their stories. And frankly, most of them didn't want to anyway. But why aren't we doing that with the fire service? You know, why aren't we doing that a better job at that now that we do have the technology of having these guys that are, you know, 70, 67 years old, went through the war years in your own departments, your own backyards, or regionally? Why aren't we doing a better job of having them come tell their stories to us? Because they have a shit ton of knowledge to offer. They just couldn't get it out past 7 firehouses in their time because they didn't have the technology for it. So the only way we can do that is get out and meet them. And then when we meet them, shut our mouths and listen. And there's just I just see it every time I go someplace. There's just such a phenomenal crop of people out there to learn from that you'll never ever hear their names. But they're phenomenal. So
yeah, absolutely.
But that's all I got, man. That's my little shtick, I guess, at the end. So
that's awesome. Well, we really appreciate you coming on. Brendan, you got anything to throw in, add from we're going over?
Well, I think it was very good.
I even saw it went to an hour 30, and I was like, "That's it. We nailed it.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's exactly how we expected. We got some good answers and good advice in there too. I really hope we get a lot of people to tune in for it. I know we will, considering everybody was saying how famous you were. So you'll get
Infamous is the word. Infamous.
the infamous JD.
Yeah, right.
I'll throw that in the title when we post
The wanted poster. Remember the cowboy poster, right?
Hey,
Yeah.
perfect. I'm gonna try. We got Photoshop now, so I'm gonna try and create like personalized.
Oh,
thumbnails.
I still have the cowboy.
I
still have the cowboy poster.
You've just given me my idea, so now it's now you're getting that. So
Love it.
well, then all that's left is to end it like every time we do. So I'll take us away, then Brennan, and then you end us with our classic "Don't be a shitbag" and whatever else you want to throw in the last second, and we'll be done and out of here. So thank you guys so much for listening. Check the website out. Get a t-shirt if you haven't. That's all we'll say about that. Don't be a shitbag.
Thanks for listening. Don't be a shitbag.
That's right. Don't be a shitbag. Done.